Okay, so welcome everyone to these weekly gatherings where I get to channel the Pleiadians for everyone. Today's date is the 28th of September 2024, and it is 7:38 in Ireland. The energies have been really intense, and for me personally, it's hard to describe just how the energies have been lately, and there have been things that have been released to the public via the mainstream media to do with Hollywood and various other situations that have been very distressing, and we have been bombarded with information through different social medias on situations in Hollywood, and it seems to be that it is some kind of distraction going on as well. So I'm wondering what are we being distracted from? There's a couple of other things I wanted to share with you. One of them is I saw a post on, I think it was Facebook or one of the social medias, regarding China having built a large satellite or moon and wanting to release it by a certain year. I can't remember what year it was, perhaps 2030, but it was within about 4 or 5 years' time, where they wanted to release a moon, or a satellite moon, and put it up into the atmosphere. And then a few days later, I saw a post. We're recording, Sheila. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And then a few days later, I saw a post on social media again, reporting that we had a second moon coming into our atmosphere, but we wouldn't be able to see it. And I think it's coming in around about now, which I just find, I'm very much on the fence with those two stories, more the second one. And I'm wondering if it is the same thing. I haven't received any information so far from the Pleiadians about either subject, but I'm questioning whether it's the same thing, because the powers that be are way in advance and always let us know what they always release stories after the fact of when they've actually put things into place. So we never get told really of what's to come. We get told about past situations. And I very much believe that the first story I saw about China building a moon and putting it into our atmosphere has already happened. So I'm questioning whether it is the same object. But I'm also waiting to see if the Pleiadians have anything to say about that. I know that they have spoken recently about the moon that we do have. And they have said it's not actually a moon in the sense that we think of it, which I don't have any reason to doubt them. So with that said, what else do I need to say? I'm just going to pause there for a second. What keeps coming to my mind the last couple of weeks is I can feel the Pleiadian energies building. What's coming to my mind the last couple of weeks, the last couple of years, and it just keeps getting, the thought with me keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And the thought is along the lines of, I had no idea when I was growing up just how the world would be now in my 50s. I remember that there is one experience I had that I would like very much to share with everyone, especially you guys, where I don't know how old I was. I was very young. I was between the age of 8 and 10 or 11. I was in between those ages, and I was in my room and I was looking in the mirror and I was talking to my guides, and they told me to write information down, so I did. And I didn't, it was probably the Pleiadians, and I wasn't aware that my guides were the Pleiadians at the time. Most of you know that here now. And so I wrote this information down, and it was regarding different years. And I only remembered it. I only remembered this experience when COVID hit. I'd forgotten it for so many years, and it wasn't even in my book. And when I wrote the book, I had to go back in memory and remember all the different experiences that I'd had spiritually and the things that the Pleiadians had shared with me, or some of them. And because a lot of it I had forgotten. And this experience never came up when I was writing my book. So they were giving me information, and they were giving me years. And I remember that one of the years was 2020, and they were telling me what would happen and what would occur and where I'd be and things like that. And I didn't remember it until COVID hit. But I never really, and I'd forgotten that for so long, and that's been coming back to me a lot the last couple of weeks. And I never thought that we would be in the world we're living in now. One of the other things I really want to share with everyone listening now and in the future is that all systems on Earth are corrupt, are satanic, are run by negative ET reptilian energy. And we're in a time of ascension, and all these systems are crumbling in front of our very eyes and falling down, burning up. And it's pretty stressful, even for me, with all the training I've had. And I say training because we've been training for lifetimes to be here now. And even given that, we've been training for lifetimes since the downfall of Atlantis. Even given that, and given that I'm channeling and have been channeling the Pleiadians for a long time, since childhood, even and given my warrior spirit, and given all the attributes that I have, and that we all have as starseeds. I'm not unique in any way. We all have very similar attributes and a warrior energy, and we all have been training for lifetimes to be here now, given all of that, we're still finding it intense and crazy, and sometimes it can be very distressing and intense and overwhelming, and for me personally, it can feel sometimes like it's overbearing and unbearable. And yet here we are, and it's just started. The plug has just been pulled, and there is so much more to come of every system being exposed. We haven't even begun to see some of the atrocities and evilness. I'm starting to get emotional, so I'm going to have to stop. But we haven't even begun to see that we haven't even begun to see the darkness. Having said all that, I've always seen a positive timeline, and so I hold on to that with a lot of strength and belief, a deep rooted core belief that is unbreakable and unshakable, that we do have a positive timeline, because that's what I've been shown. We cannot not have that. It's inevitable that we have that positive timeline of ascension. But things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. It seems to be the truth that everything needs to be exposed to the public, whether it's just to us as starseeds and warriors and lightworkers being the public, or whether it's the bigger public with Joe Blogs down the road. Who knows to what level things are going to be exposed, but everything will be exposed. I don't believe, like DM, that only certain things will be exposed. I think everything will be exposed, perhaps not to Joe Blogs down the road, but it's certainly going to be exposed to some level, to some degree. And I believe that we, as starseeds, I believe starseeds will, and light workers and warriors and channelers and the likes of us, will be the first to know. Perhaps not the first to know, but we will be told. We will be told one way or another. So I'm going to start the meditation. Before I start the meditation, is there anything that you guys here now would like to say about anything I've said?
I'll just say this, I definitely support that positive timeline. I've had that vision too, so I just want to lend you my support on that.
Thank you, Mark.
I'd like you, when you talk to the Pleiadians, just to ask them on their thoughts regarding the flash, the solar flash.
I will do, Alan. Or actually, if towards the whenever they ask, do you have questions, would you pose that to them? I think I take, sorry. So I don't think, I know that they have spoken about that before, and they have said that the flash will be a process of reoccurring different flashes at different times, and it will be a process, a build up. So it will increase the flashes. It's not just one solar flash, it will increase, and it will, and what's happening is that part of it is that the energy emitting from the sun in the flashes is to help us to slowly increase our frequency and energy and vibration. It's very linked to our energy, and it's not limited to just us. It affects everything within the whole universe. Excuse me, I can feel myself going into a channeling now, so I'm going to close my eyes and see if they want to come through. But yeah, please do ask that question when they ask if anyone has any questions.
Okay.
And also, if any of you need to leave, please just leave. I always feel a bit funny saying that, but it does affect the channeling. It pulls me out of the channeling. So, yeah. And I'm just going to turn my camera off for 1 second because I want to pull my curtains across. Okay, thank you. That's better. Okay, so let us begin. Let us help you to increase and expand your own frequency of love, so that it fills you up internally with a beautiful energy of love that you truly are, truly are, that we are. An expansion of consciousness that is love in its highest form. That expansion of love is what Ascension is all about. So when you're ready, place your feet on the floor, shoes off if you want to. Take your time, there is no rush. Have patience with yourself, not just in this moment, but as much as you possibly can in all areas of your life. Take some deep breaths in through your nose. Down to your belly. Hold it for as long as is comfortable and release out through your mouth. And do that 2 or 3 more times. We also have some visitors here this evening that Soma hasn't seen for some time. One is Ella, who she rarely speaks about. She is not going to go into detail about that now. But Ella is one of us. Guides, have certain attributes, and personalities is the wrong word, but certain attributes. There are soul groups of guides in the way that there are soul groups of you. Twin flames, soulmates, soul families, starseeds. There are many groups, and guides also have these groups. This is not often spoken about. But guides often, and this is news to Soma, as we are only just sharing it now, in the first moment, where your guides have different attributes and are with you for these different attributes, or an aspect of them is with you for these different attributes. Some are warriors, some are peacekeepers, some are time travelers, some are healers. They all have different attributes and their own soul's mission, which is news to Soma. Many Moons is also here, which is highly significant this evening to Soma, as he will be listening in the future, which may sound strange to many of you, but it is personal and private to Soma. We will not say more than that for now. And the energy of Jesus is also here and has returned, is returning to your planet. The Christ consciousness is with you. The light, the new dawn, the new earth, the new hemisphere, the new challenges, the new modalities, the new direction, the new human, the new crystalline being, the new money system, the new educational system. These systems are crumbling. You are in a time of warp speed, and things are incredibly intense for you. And this is to Soma, the way she feels about this or understands it is that it is like a light switch that is turned on, or a dimmer switch is a better explanation. A dimmer switch where you turn the dial and it increases the energy or lowers the intensity. And at the moment, you are not even on full intensity, but you are more than halfway. slightly more than halfway. And then there will be times in the future where it's turned down and turned up and turned down and up and down and up and down. And with this is also a grand explanation of what is happening with your time, because time has speeded up, and there are moments in Soma's everyday life where it is increased. The time is increased at a velocity that she feels is overwhelming. And then there are times when it slows down and speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down. And this is also the same for Ascension. This is this dial of intense and slowness speeds up and slows down in many different aspects and areas, to do with time, to do with ascension, to do with energy, to do with vibration, to do with frequency, to do with sound, to do with movement, to do with velocity, to do with everything in the universe. It is a wobbling moment, which is also an aspect of ascension. You are wobbling. And it will take some generations. Thank you. It will take many generations for humanity to find a stillness in the future where the wobbling comes to a more balanced state. And it will. Soma is correct, accurate in saying that there will be a positive timeline, that there is, ascension is inevitable. We have always explained this to her. The 6 months will be important for Soma next year. She doesn't like sharing the personal messages we give her, but sometimes we share personal tidbits with her during these downloadings. One of the most important things you can do on your planet right now for humanity as a collective, as a whole, is to focus on yourselves first, and then focus on your families and your loved ones that are most dearest to you and closest to you. That is so important right now. Stop looking outside, stop looking at what appears to be the devastation and the crumbling of all systems on your planet. It is through the darkness where the cracks get in. That is a very famous saying, famous quote. That is often shared amongst you and comes from us and our brothers and sisters, the Lyrans and others. You live in you are not alone. You are not alone. Everything outside of you is a distraction. Everything outside of you is a distraction. Go within, meditate, connect. Now would be a good time for questions.
Okay, thank you for coming through, Carol, this evening. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, do you have any information or knowledge regarding the solar flash, which has been commented on other people who have channeled different spirits and entities and races, and they seem to have some information on it? I was just wondering if you also have information on this solar flash, if it's going to happen, and obviously we can't say dates, but timelines maybe, and maybe a period that we need to look out for.
What is your doubt around? Okay. You have a connection to Andromeda. You also have a connection to DM in a past life, which is one of the reasons why Soma wanted to connect you. She didn't know this until just now. The 6th month will be important, and the 7th month will be important next year. There are times that Soma has, there are times that there are times that others. Give accurate dates. And then these dates change because nothing is set in stone. We've shared previously that there will be several releases of energy from your sun in stages. Part of the reason that these releases of energy from the sun are in stages is so that we've often explained of being frazzled and how if you put a plug, sometimes even too quickly, into a socket, that it can cause the energy to frazzle. This can be the same can be said for the human Kundalini energy as it is understood, which can cause mental health problems. The same could be said for the sun releasing energy, which is to do with ascension and an increase in evolution, humanity's evolution. When the sun increases its energy, so do you. Increase your consciousness. The sun is connected to consciousness. Let us say that again. The sun is connected to consciousness at a very high level. The sun is conscious, as are all your planets, suns, stars, and moons, the real ones. So this solar flashes, as you call them, will be repetitive and will increase again and again and again and again. And this has been occurring for some time. For quite some time, there have been little bursts of energy being released from the sun. And not just your sun, but other suns, because all the suns are connected. All the planets are connected. All the stars. All the star nations. It is, we could use an example of that we gave just now to do with soul groups. You could imagine all the suns are connected as being part of a soul group. And also the planets and the moons and the stars and the star nations and the star seeds are all part of soul groups. Individually and collectively. So therefore, all the suns are connected. All the planets are connected separately and together. You could categorize the sun into one group, and the moons and the stars and the star nations and the star seeds. And then you can also group them together into a somewhat smaller group of planetary bodies, which would include suns and stars and moons and planets, into a larger group. And that would be that would be the same for star nations, that would be the same for star seeds, that would be the same for humans, that would be the same for soul groups. There is, and at the very highest end of the spectrum, there is one group of, which would be God. God's source is one. God's source is one. You are God's source. And then you have many thousands of individual or other groups. Individual is the wrong choice of words. But within God, you have, we know we are veering off the question slightly, but within God, you have many different groups or soul groups. You have humans, you have us, you have Syrians, you have star nations, you have many different groups, humans, animals, plants, nature, trees, insects even. And then you also have what Soma would call other human beings on other planets. These solar flashes, these releasing of energy from the sun, needs to be experienced in stages, both for the sun and for you and for everything else as well. It is a buildup of ascension energy, which is exactly what is happening on your planet now, which is exactly what is happening with your DNA now, which is exactly what is happening with your consciousness now, which is exactly what is happening with everything now. It is part of ascension process. Everything within the universe is changing. We've said this before many times. Your ascension is not limited to Earth. How could it be? That is not a natural way. And that is not, thank you, that is not a natural law. Have patience. Have patience. Have patience. When you are feeling that intense energy, still find your stillness within you.
Okay. I have a second question if they don't mind. The second question is something that I spoke to Carol about, and we both talked about it. It's very strange, well, not strange, but it's very unfair that the elites have all the tools and resources they need to destroy the planet. And the one thing that the light workers who are down here to do a job don't have are them tools and resources. So it's the light workers bringing a knife to a gunfight. So is there something going to happen down the line, or is there some way? We don't want, obviously, the Pleiadians or spirit to fight for us, but we would appreciate, as they say, throw a dog a bone. We would appreciate some level of resources to make the fight an even fight moving forward.
What a beautiful question. There are things you can do. Very physical, practical things. So many of you picked up microphones. Some of you very recently, some of you many years ago, in preparation for what was to come. You didn't know this at the time, but it was a preparation for this time that you are in now. Uniting is essential. Uniting with each other of a similar frequency, of a similar mind, of a similar vibration, of a similar ilk, of a similar viewpoint, of a similar perspective, of a similar understanding, of a similar nature. Because you are soul groups of starseeds. Whether you call yourselves that or not, that is who you are. Every single one of you on your planet now who is in this truth movement or light warrior or healer or shaman or energy of awakening, those with a different perspective a higher calling, a higher understanding. You are all starseeds. Whether you call yourselves that or not, that is how we see you. You are us. You are us. Whether you are Pleiadian or Syrian, Lyra, you are warriors of the light. You are here for this period. A very practical thing you can do is unite, to share truths, to reach more people. You have great technology that is often misused or always misused by the negative agenda. But you have technology at your fingertips where you can press a few buttons and speak to people across the planet, in America, in Ireland, in the UK, in Russia. All systems have what you would call, what Soma would call, white hats working within them. Some of these white hat systems that are working within within all systems are stronger in some systems. It would be true, it would be a truth to say that the white hats are operating very much within the military and the governments on your planet in different countries. And it is also a truth to say that the pharmaceutical industries on your planet do have what you would call, what Soma would call, white hats within this system, but less so than the military and less so than the governments. There is what Soma would call a hierarchy of systems on your planet, meaning that the governments would be at the top end of the spectrum of these systems, and the school system would be at a lower end of the spectrum, somewhat, not fully, but somewhat, because the government's government, the school systems, govern the school systems. So therefore, the school system is seen as having, even unconsciously, seen as having less, thank you, as less power than the governments and the military. But the military and the governments are almost equal in almost, not quite, almost equal in that the power they have to govern. There are indeed white hats working most predominantly with the governments, and the people that are in real power. We've said this before, albeit without Soma trying to mention names, but it is almost impossible for her not to. There is a spiritual war that has been occurring on your planet since the downfall of Atlantis, between light and dark, between star nations. There have been periods in your history where this has been a very visible sight, visible to humanity. in the past. But it is hidden from you more or less now. Some of you are aware of craft. Last week we spoke of, Soma spoke of the ability to see spirit. The majority of people on your planet do not see this spectrum of light, do not see the spectrum of guides or fairies or tree spirits or spirit or us or other star nations or craft. It is all about your consciousness and what you are able to perceive. You do have assistance. We are assisting you, but we cannot do this for you. This is a journey that we are undertaking together. Much like a toddler, thank you, learning to walk. Or learning not to put its hand on the fire or the cooker. We would welcome any more questions. And we would like to ask, does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, thank you for the answer to the question. It just means that we have to carry on doing what we're doing and hope that down the line that the shift will take place, that there'll be a change in a positive way. So cheers for that.
You are creators of your own reality. Your thoughts are creative. You are creating everything, both on an individual and collective way, in a collective, in an individual way. You are creating this. You are creating your own life. We could bring into reference here that collectively, the 100th monkey would be a good example of how things come in, thank you, things come into creation and manifest. When there is a certain amount of you or a certain amount of thought or consciousness in the ethers, that it creates a new way of being, or can create a new way of being. You are learning to be in a new energy. You are learning a new frequency, a new vibration, a new sound of the universe. The sound of the spheres is the sound of the universe, and that is changing. That is changing. What is happening in the universe is magnificent. And unfathomable to the majority of you. As Soma would say, normal people have little understanding because they are not seeing or able to speak the language that you as starseeds are speaking and have spoken in previous lifetimes again and again and again and again and again. We would say to you in a more direct way, Alan, to very gently because we say this with a lot of love, to very gently release the pressure that you put on yourself, the impatience, the frustration. Breathe and stand back and view from a higher perspective, perhaps even view from our perspective. Which is possible when you are, when you are connected to us.
Great. Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
Focus on love frequency. Focus on what you want to create. We understand it is a process to come away from focusing on what is outside of you. We understand that this is a very physical process to come away from, and this includes Soma, to come away from looking outside of you. It is a process to look within. This process does not happen overnight unless there is some miracle that occurs. Change is gradual. Change is gradual within everything. And this includes the sun energies. This includes everything. Change is gradual.
I have a follow-up question on that, if I may. Since you earlier talked about some people being very targeted, as we all know how that feels, or many of us at least. Yeah, and at the same time, yeah, before I know they've talked about this and that old souls are being more targeted, etc. If they have more knowledge, for instance. But at the same time, now you mention it's all that we are the creators of like everything, and do we create that through ourselves, this targeting?
On a higher level, yes. At an extreme end of a higher level, yes, you do. But that is at a very high end of a spectrum. You create the darkness to bring in the light. You create the darkness to bring in the light, both individually and collectively. Humanity cannot ascend without the dark. Humanity cannot ascend without the dark. It is essential. Soma doesn't think we've ever said it in these exact words before. At least she can't remember that having said that before. The dark is an essential part of your ascension. The targeting is an essential part of your individual paths and lives. It is a war of light and dark, of yin and yang, of male and female, of positive and negative, of good and bad, of light and dark, of sweet and sour, of chalk and cheese, of male cannot, thank you. Male cannot exist without female. Light cannot exist without dark. support. They actually support each other. In a bigger picture, from a higher viewpoint, you cannot ascend without the dark. Soma understands this very well because of her traumatic childhood, where we stepped in and connected to her. She understands this very well. It is a core belief. It is a core understanding in her. And you know this as well. In here, you know this. That from the negative comes the positive, comes the shift, comes the movement, the ascension, the new earth is born from the old earth. A new beginning, a new dawn, a new way. So there is something to be said for the negative agenda. There is something to be said for reptilian energy. There is something to be said for the darkness on your planet. Which is horrendous. Let us not bypass that. Thank you. Let us not bypass that. There will be some the darkness on your planet has reached its full potential and lays in secret. And all of that darkness that has reached its full potential and lays in secret will be exposed. Meaning that many of you will find that distressing. But love wins. You are stronger than you know. You are stronger than you understand. You are stronger than you believe. You are stronger than you are taught to believe. Within you, Marian, and other starseeds listening now and in the future, you are stronger than you are consciously aware of. You took on this human form now in this lifetime because you are the strongest of the strong. You are the strongest of the strong. You are able to, and you often don't feel it, if ever. You often don't feel it, if ever, and this includes Soma. You often don't feel it, if ever, but you have more than enough of the strength to walk through that battle when you are under attack, to overcome that, to get through that. Both of you will actually live a very long time, a very long lifetime. When we say both of you, we mean you, Marian, and Soma, who was questioning that for a while for herself, given some information that she received. But that is not to be, she will have a long life. You are strong enough. You are a true warrior. You have forces working with you that you are not yet aware of. You have forces working with you and beings of light working with you that you are aware of. But there are higher energies than even these that are working with you that are. Love wins. Love wins. Love. Send love, be love, work with love. Love, we've said before, love is a frequency. It is measurable, and anything that can be measured can be created. Send love to these dark energies that do attack you. Send love, be love, stand in love. Excel in love, shine love. You are love, be love. Stand in your truth, stand in your I am presence, and let that shine from your core being. When you walk in that more and more, you will have less and less negative attacks and targeting. But it is a process. Love wins. We thank you. We cannot find the words, or rather Soma cannot find the words to express how much we love you and how much we have your back and how much we are here for you to assist you and help you through these difficult, challenging times. We are in this together, and you are not alone. You are never alone. You are never, ever alone. Love wins.
Thank you. I also wonder if they have gone too far. You have mentioned that before, I think, with their targeting and manipulation and heavy energetic warfare. Or is this all according to plan for us to experience this in development purposes?
I came out of it there. So I'm gonna let's put that question on hold. And I didn't actually even hear what you said, Marion, because I was just coming back. But let's pause and have a break and see what happens. If I don't go back into the channeling, I don't think I probably will this evening, and I didn't hear the question. But so perhaps we could follow that up next week. But don't go anywhere, guys. Let's just take a break. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I have my coffee here, and Alan and Mark were just having a really important conversation. So Michael and anyone else, please feel free to continue with that.
Okay. Well, we were just talking about the whole idea of the restrictions of freedom of speech, the hate speech that's coming to Scotland, and they're trying to bring it into Ireland. And as I was going to say, the first rule of the manifesto of communism is to stop free speech, and they will disguise it as they usually do by saying that, oh, it's to protect people, but it's not.
Right.
It's to stop
Yeah.
people from exposing what's going on and having free speech. Now in America, you have your First Amendment, obviously, and you're lucky to have that. But obviously, I'm sure people have been arrested for saying things which, you know, in America, even though you have the First Amendment. But my concern is the generation that we have today, you know, this entitlement and the fact that they get offended very easy, when our generation was much different. We were much harder. It was the way it was at the time. But so today, and obviously they want to implement not only the stopping of free speech, but the digital cash. And they want to bring out the COVID was a tester with the digital IDs to see how they get on and to see how acquiescent the people are to accepting their rules and regulations. And obviously one of the things they want to do, well, there's two things, if you don't mind me talking about this. One is they want to implement martial law, so they have to trigger that. And the best way to trigger is to have shills who join protests and cause trouble. And then you'll have the politicians coming on TV going, oh, there was trouble and there was, you know, fires and cars were put on fire and everything. So we now have to bring in martial law. So that's one way you want to do it. And then the obviously mandating the vaccines, I'm sure they'll probably go down that road again and come in with some kind of system where they'll want to mandate vaccines, or they'll probably put it in their food, or, you know, that's really what they're doing now. The nanotech, I know we talked about targeted individuals there the last week, but the technology is now so small, they're not even chips, they can fit in a vaccine. So the other thing I was going to say, which I think I said last week anyway, is their plan is with all the advanced technology with AI. Now I'm an IT guy, so they have AI and they have the deep fakes and they have voice, Photoshop, Adobe. Like Photoshop, Adobe have an application that can obviously replicate your voice. So what they'll say is, look, how do we know it's you? The banks will say, how do we know it's you? So what we need you to do is we need you to put a chip in your hand. You know, if it's not on your mobile phone, it'll be a chip in your hand. And then we'll know that when you ring up, we can bleep your hand with your microchip inside, and we'll know it's you and it's not a deep fake or something. And this is what was said to me. This is where they're planning to go, or they hope to go down that road if we don't stop it. So
yeah, I agree. We have to be aware of that. So, but I think in the same light that, you know, they say, you know, we can't be mean to each other. There is another side that's and I agree that goes too far at times, but also the good thing is I've seen a lot of young people on the other side of that. Like I've seen both sides. I've seen a lot of young people on one side, you know, saying, oh, you know, we got to be nice to each other, or even to the point of, you know, white, what do they call it? You know, when they say that white, I don't know, I forget the name for it, but, you know, the privilege, you know, white privilege, like that's the extreme side of it. But the other side is people understanding that that's, you know, that's also a racist way of looking at the world, anywhere where we divide and conquer. And so I feel like anything that where there's going to be, you know, more control initially, maybe they may allow that, or they may, you know, there's going to be people obviously signing up for that, and all for it. But I believe that more and more people will allow people to not have to do it. Like, you know, why do we have to mandate people to do things to their body? And as that hypocrisy of, you know, well, you say, you know, okay, I'm against abortion or whatever because, you know, I'm for women's rights. Well, then, you know, you can't be for mandating, you know, anything to the body, because the two of those are hypocritical. If you believe one, you have to believe the other. And the more that people talk about that and point that out and point out the hypocriticalness of that kind of thinking, that, you know, you can't say, oh, I don't want anyone telling me what to do with my body, but then don't tell me to put a vaccine in me. That becomes more and more aware, and everyone becomes more aware of those arguments being hypocritical, you know, and so because you can't, that's illogical, right? So, and even though that right now there's a lot of people support that illogical argument, I feel like over time it's going to become more obvious and more obvious how illogical that is.
Well, again, we have to expose what went on. COVID was really a good test case and a good example of what happens. Because I have a background in psychology, obviously, when I seen COVID kicking in, I have to give them credit where credit is due. They played the psychology card fantastic. They know that when people are in fear, their prefrontal cortex shuts down, which is the front part of the brain, and they critical thinking stops, and they go into fight or flight mode. And of course, fight and flight mode is, oh, I don't know where to go. I'll either get it or don't get it, or they don't know what to do. And a lot of them are so in fear because of the fear porn 24/7. They went off and got injected. And others went and got injected because they wanted to go to bingo, or they wanted to go on holiday, or they wanted to go and have a coffee or something. So that, they played that card very well. I'll give them credit. These nudge groups, which they were called, over here in Ireland, we had NEFID, and over in the UK, they had SAGE. And these were like, people, psychologists and the like, who would get together and know how to manipulate people using human nature and psychology. And that's what they did. And they did a great job of it. And people fell for it. And they went out and got injected. And we had to be very strong. So hat off to everybody who didn't get the jab, because we had to be very strong and fight that. We had ridicule from family and friends and everything else. But the thing is, Mark, what they do is, see you, MG, Marianne. What they do is, they won't kind of point at you. What they did, as you know, is they said, oh, if you don't get the jab, you're going to affect Granny. Granny's going to get it because you didn't get the jab. So they make you feel guilty, and they make you less of a man or a person if you don't get it, and if you don't care about your friends and family. This is the game they did with COVID.
Yeah, but I feel like, Alan, that that has been exposed now, and so it's and the fallacies of that and the lies of that has now been so exposed that they're not going to get away with it again.
Well, I hope they don't, Mark. I hope they don't. I hope the fact that we have all these injuries and people dying in COVID, and there's a major case over here in Ireland at the moment where a young lad got injected thinking he was doing the right thing, and he died, and the family now are on the warpath, and they want answers, and they're exposing it. So I think all these little cases and other people bringing the government and the big pharma to task, I think is going to be a big step in exposing what went on. But as I said, all our families have been affected, or we know somebody who might have been affected. My mother-in-law passed away last month, and she got the 6th jab. So she had 5 jabs before that, and her health wasn't the best anyway. But when she got the 6th jab, on the day she got the jab, she lost the use of her legs temporarily, and within 2 months of getting that jab, she died. She had to go on oxygen 24/7, and that's the second time I've heard of a woman being jabbed and losing the use of her legs. Now, so I think COVID was definitely an eye-opener, and it's just funny that COVID started in March 2020. And if you look at 2020, as in 2020 vision, we all say 20, you will see what's going on. That will be the starter. Maybe 2020, the year, was 2020 vision to start the ball rolling, to get us to wake up to what's going on.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a lot of waking up that happened, whether, and some of it was delayed, some of it, but I think the pause, the full on world pause, where everyone all of a sudden reassessed their work, their jobs, their roles. I think that was so significant. It was also a very negative experience for some people. Unfortunately, a lot of people committed suicide as a result as well. But I do believe that it was a huge, self-check for many, many people to reevaluate their whole lives.
Yeah, I think the mental health issue with young people, especially, that was a major contribution to a lot of the deaths and suicides. But you're right. I think a lot of people, when they were working from home or they were furloughed off their job for that period, probably thought, you know what? I don't need much money to live. Why am I killing myself in this dead end job? So I'm not going back to work. And I think a lot of that happened. And that was part of the awakening, I think.
I agree. I do believe that. Yeah.
You know, so it was a kind of blessing in disguise. Now, I have heard that they are planning on, obviously they're going to try and pull it off again in some shape, form or way. Maybe, and with the lockdowns, because they got such a thrill looshing that energy. And if Big Pharma made so much money from the sales of the drug, I won't say vaccine because we know it wasn't one, but there's no, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I mean, they talk about the monkeypox now and everything else, but I think they got such a kick out of that COVID that they probably thought, yeah, let's try it again. So and maybe with the next couple of years that are going to be quite difficult as well, until we start seeing the hopefully the solar flash or changes, at least in a positive way. When we start, you know, going up the hill instead of down the hill, or should I say going down the hill instead of going up the hill. I think it will probably be self-evident when we start seeing a shift in society. I think I mean, we are kind of seeing shoots in it. And because people are asking, even the war in Israel and you know, what had Israel bombing Hezbollah and all the war stuff, and people are going, why are we doing this? We didn't agree to this. Why are they doing it? So
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to have this conversation a year from now, because I think right now, I think we're in the worst of the worst, because everyone and their mother whose channels is saying the next 2 months, the next 3 months, like literally everyone's saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I think it's hard to have perspective that things are going to get better when they're still getting worse. And literally every channeler that I've heard says the same thing. I mean, I don't know, you can argue, tell me if you've heard differently, but so I feel like we won't know until we get out of this next few months, maybe, you know, maybe 6-7 months from now, and then hopefully maybe we see the light there, or a year from now maybe we'll see that things are radically changing. But I feel like right now, when it appears that, you know, the negative agenda is throwing everything they can to, you know, to try to impact us negatively, that it's hard to see that light side. But then again, there's been a backlash on everything that they've done. And I think the more they do, the more backlash there is, and they just wake more people up in the end.
yeah, well, I think it's all relative, because if you think about it, right, there's people like us, I'm sure that we're fairly okay. We have food on the table. We pay the bills, and our lives are pretty much okay. And then if you look at the people that are being affected by the storms, the one they had in Florida was pretty bad. I know we did obviously manipulate as well. I totally agree with you on that. And other parts of the world, you know, the Ring of Fire, where there's volcanoes and people are losing their houses, and there's wars going off and people are dying. Maybe to them, that's the end of the world. Maybe in their, because it's relative. So
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
so it you know, one of the things that, you know, Spirit has said about the changes in the world and things are getting worse. I mean, to us, compared to what people are really experiencing out there, it's pretty easy for us, isn't it? We're having it kind of quite easy. So does that mean that because of our vibration and our frequency, again, it goes back to Laura's canon when she said about the splitting of the two worlds. And I spoke to Laura, what's her name? Another lady, Laura.
Eisenhower?
No, I did interview her years ago. Laura Lewington, or no, I forget her name. Laura, anyway, I interviewed her a couple of times and we were talking about this split. And she said that what will happen is when you have two opposing frequencies, like magnets, they repel each other. And if your frequency is going up, and there's people around you who are not growing up, their frequency isn't changing, there will be a period of time that you will just repel each other, because you just can't be in the same room as these people, or you can't be in the same location, because your frequencies just don't match, you know?
Right.
So, and she says, so this is going to grow and grow and grow as part of the change in the split. And she felt that, kind of like Dolores Cannon, that the 5D people, let's go, I'm going to break it down to make it simple, but we'll say we're the 5D people because of our frequencies, right? We are holding the 3D world in place at the moment. But as soon as a shift, a solar flash or something like that happens, and if you're 50% or more to service to others, and that solar flash or that shift or something happens, then when we shift over to the 5D, we're not supporting that 3D world or frequency anymore. And that will go off in the opposite direction, where people will be learning their life and living their life on a 3D frequency, because that's what they've, you know, maybe the higher self has chosen that anyway as part of their learning. So the split will happen where they'll go off, and the 3D dystopian world falling apart, and the Hunger Games and all that stuff, that will go on the 3D world, but we'll have the 5D. We'll be on the 5D world, where we'll have all the benefits and the manifestation and all the service to others and all that. This is kind of the Dolores Cannon take, and Laura said the same thing, but I'm just kind of, I'm not agreeing to, you know, I'm entertaining the information. Doesn't mean I'll agree with
it. But Carol's also talked about the split as well. I don't know, Carol, if you want to go into that.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I don't know if Alan's heard the Pleiadians talk about it or not, but what they showed me very clearly when COVID kicked off. So when COVID kicked off, when COVID hit in the UK, because that's where I was at the time, I got quite a lot of anxiety about it. And I was very worried, and I hadn't channeled the Pleiadians for a while. And I went into my garden. I had a huge, beautiful communal garden, very large at the time. And I went into the garden and I sat down and I channeled the Pleiadians just for myself to see what was going on, and which is, you know, normally where I get my information from. And one of the things they shared with me that was really important at the time, and still is important, but at the time they shared it, it was very relevant. So they said, they explained to me that that at that time that I was shown, there was two very intense energies. Sorry, let me rephrase that. There was a very intense energy hitting the earth at the time, and this energy was, to me, I saw it visually, and it was very much like a beam of light coming down, very much like a torch beam coming down onto the earth, that was going to increase and intensify and build to such a momentum and magnitude that it would actually cause the earth to multiply into two earths. It was such a strong force of energy that it would cause the earth to multiply, not divide, because sometimes I used to use that word, but that's a wrong description. It didn't divide, it multiplied. And I know I'm speaking in the past tense now, but and I can feel myself going back into a channeling, but the earth multiplied into two, and one went into a higher level, a higher frequency, a higher awareness, a higher vibration, a higher awareness, consciousness, and the other stayed where it was, or it would sink into an even lower frequency, awareness, dimension. And I do, when I see this image, I always see it in color. Like, I think I spoke about this recently, or at least the Pleiadians did, in a channeling, where they were saying that I was looking at it from, and I've always seen it from the perspective of looking at it from space, where I see this earth shining brilliant blue and white and light, and the blue oceans, and such a beautiful light emanating of white from it. And then this one I do see as being very dark in color and dropping into a lower density. So that is what they've shown me. That is one of the things they've shown me.
Okay, well,
And
that's
of course, let me just add,
yeah.
and of course, that there is that is the way they first showed me. But since then, they have showed me very subtly, or very because I don't think they've really gone into it in detail, that this is to do with timelines, and that there is thousands of these earths. There's not just two, but these would be the initial foundation of the process of being able to create more earths and more timelines, and a more like a bigger process. But there was two main ones instigated that were a foundation for the splitting of energies, which we are seeing very, very evidently on Earth, where there is a growing divide, and that is connected to these two different Earths, these two different timelines. That is not to say that there isn't thousands of Earths and thousands of different timelines, because there is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And one of the triggers of the solar flash apparently is, I know the Betelgeuse is supposed to be going supernova if it hasn't done it already. I don't think it has. But they reckon that something like that would be the trigger for the solar flash to come in. So I don't know. I'm kind of keeping an eye on that as well. You know, there's a guy on the internet that does track. He tracks stuff like that, as well as the Schumann frequency and what's happening with the sun. So just out of interest, it's handy. But yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. This is the thing. I know we're kind of frustrated and we just want to get on with the job and get on with what we can do. But I suppose, you know, it's the case of just waiting and just doing the best we can while we're waiting for it, and staying away from the negativity, staying away from energy vampires, and being with like-minded people, and being able to have discussions like this, an open-minded discussion where nobody's worried about, you know, or concerned about having their belief system challenged, which is one of the major things, even with truthers, where if you're stuck in a belief system and somebody challenges it, they have information that goes against it, sometimes that causes an argument, but that's only because the person is stuck in the belief system. And I always quote Aristotle, where he says the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So you park the ego, you entertain everything, but there's no harm asking for evidence. If you have open-minded people who can challenge all the belief systems, then it's going to be a good discussion with open-minded people, you know, because we entertain everything. You know, it doesn't mean we believe it, but we'll entertain everything and go, oh, that's interesting, you know. And it just, and it's nice when you're in a circle or you're in a group of people that are all similar like that. It makes great information being shared. So, you know, I'm all for that anyway. But on that note, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. And I'm going to go off and a few things to do before I end up going to bed and have my cup of tea and all that. My Ovaltine. No, I won't. I don't have Ovaltine. I have a cup of tea. Yeah, but I'm getting to that stage, Michael. But listen, folks, it's great having a chat with you. It's great having a chat on Saturday evening to have a catch up and touch base for everybody and swap information, because we're all kind of listening and tuning in and seeing what's on the internet, and you know, and just swapping information, what we hear, which is really good. So yeah, cheers for the bringing me in, Carol. to your group and being able to chat with everybody. It's sometimes the world does affect us in a way that it's nice to be able to be with like-minded people, so we can talk like this openly, because I know I'm currently doing a full-time training course at the moment, and the people that I'm on the training course with I don't think are open-minded at all, and I don't even want to go down that road. I'm just, nodding and waving, as they say. I'm not saying anything because you know yourself, it's not worth it. But so there you go. So listen, I'm off. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. And take it easy. Have a good one.
Yeah, Alan. Bye.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for joining us. And yeah.
No problem. Thanks for the invite. All right, guys. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
So, guys, is there anything else you'd like to share? We're still recording, by the way, so.
I'm good.
Will I stop the recording now?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. And remember, love wins. And we'll see you all next week. On well, I don't do these lives, but we'll see you all soon. Okay, bye. God bless.